What is up YouTube? My name is, as always, Mr. Snorb, and I welcome you all back to another video on my channel. Today I thought we do something different. I just wanted to try this one out. And today we are doing a tier list of all the bosses that are in RuneScape 3 and how easy or how hard I think of them in terms of killing them. Really important beforehand is that I don't have killed every single boss in the game. So I think I will just skip over those that I never killed, or when I, for example, have never done a 4000 enraged Telos kill, I just take an assumption and rank them myself. Also really important beforehand is that this is solely and purely my opinion. So maybe you have a different opinion, or you think that some bosses are harder or easier to do than I think. And this is completely fine. Just tell me in the comments when you see something different. And now let's start into this tier list. First one we have is a Raxxor. And a Raxxor is divided into versions. The one with 0 to 150% enrage and the one with 150 and to 300% enrage. And a Raxxor is one of the bosses I have maybe the most kills on my account, because I love this boss. This was my first kinda mid-high level PvM boss that I took on back in the days. Nowadays with Necromancy, I think she is way easier than she was before. So I actually think that a Raxxor has a few mechanics that you have to look out, but is overall, when you know the fight, kind of easy to kill because she's kind of predictable and she does not have that many one-shot mechanics, or just easy to avoid one-shot mechanics. So I would say that the 0 to 150% enraged Raxxor goes into the advanced category. I don't think she's a beginner boss, and intermediate I think there are better ones, but I also don't think that she is really that hard. When it comes to 150 to 300 enraged, I think we're gonna go one level above it, because now every failed mechanic ultimately will be punished way harder. So I think this one here is definitely a good place for a Raxxor to be. Now let's head to Arch-Glacier. And to be honest, I have killed a lot of Arch-Glacier on my account, but I have never done a over 1000 enrage kill, so I just assume how hard this boss is gonna be. But let's start with 0 and only. So let's start with 0 enrage, 0 to 3 mechanics, and this one is kind of obvious. It's a absolute beginner boss. It's so fucking easy, because especially when it has no mechanics, you can just go there and kill it, and I think also when you're really low level, so this is definitely a beginner boss. 4 to 5 mechanics I think I do in the intermediate tier, because now you have a lot of mechanics that are on and you really have to avoid them and sometimes need some defense abilities and all that shenanigans, but ultimately the boss isn't that hard at this point. Then we have the 0 to 250 enrage, and I think this is kinda a big difference if you do it with 0 enrage or 250%, because 0 enrage 5 mechanics is the same as 4 to 5 mechanics Arch-Glacier. But with 250 enrage, we are definitely one tier above, so I go into the advanced. Over 250 enrage, I think my maximum enrage is about 500 or 600. He really punishes your mistakes, so you don't always get killed when you, for example, fail one ability, but it definitely goes into this direction. So I would say that over 250, especially over 500 enrage, he goes into the expert. And all the other enrages, I think 1000 and upwards is definitely in the pro or advanced tier. So I think the two most enraged kills go absolutely in the ascended tier, and this one I think I will get into the pro tier. Next up we have Astralan. Astralan is the first boss in the Elite Dungeon 2, and I have actually killed them a lot in my Bronzeman series and also on my main account, and I still think that Astralan is the most annoying boss in the Elite Dungeon 2. I mean, the fight is kinda quick because he only has I think 200 or 180k health or something, so it's not a long fight, but you have those little mechanics with the nutrition star and the pull score and stuff that when you fail them and you don't do them right, you easily get killed. So I think if I compare them, for example, with a 0% and a Raxxor or a 100% Arch-Glacier, I think he's harder, so I will go into the expert here with Astralan. Next up, we have the Barrows brothers. Let's make that quick. They're easy to do and is something you should take on as one of your first bosses. Next we have Beastmaster Durzak, and I think this really depends on how you do it. Because when you, for example, do a solo kill on him, he is insanely hard. When you are in a rather large group and you have a lot of experienced players with you, he is rather easy. So I think I go with him into the advanced tier because I assume that when you do him, you, for example, go with your clan and then he's not that hard to do. Next up is, I think this is the Blackstone Dragon, so the end boss of Elite Dungeon 2. And I actually think that the Blackstone Dragon also has some mechanics that you have to look out for. And if you fail them, I think they can easily kill you. But I also think that you have a lot of time to react to those mechanics. But with all the fire shenanigans that comes up and stuff, I think I will also put him in the expert tier. Next up is Chaos Elementar, and I think he is really easy. The only thing you have to do right here is just to, have a full inventory and do enough damage, I think. So he's definitely a beginner boss. Commanderin Siliana is a boss in the God Wars Dungeon 1, and I think she does a little bit more damage than, for example, her other friends in this dungeon. But I still think she has almost no mechanics, almost nothing you have to do, so she's definitely also a beginner boss. The Corporal Beast is also a pretty easy boss to kill, I think. Really, one of the most important things here is to have the right gear to kill him. But the mechanics itself aren't that hard. So I think he's harder than, for example, God Wars Dungeon 1, but he's not that hard, so let's take him into the intermediate tier. Oh, this one is a rather special one. It's the first boss in the Elite Dungeon 3. And the mechanics are really easy to handle, or rather easy to handle. But if you only fail 1 or 2 mechanics, your fight will be over really quick. So you don't have that much margin to fail. But he only has really, I think, 2 core mechanics. So he's not hard, but he can definitely one-shot you. So I think I put him in the intermediate tier, but also with a side note that he could easily also be advanced. But I think since he only has, as I said, I think it's actually 2 mechanics when I think of it, he should be easy to learn. Next up, we have Krasus. And Krasus is also a boss that really depends on your team that you're in. When you want to solo him, he's insanely hard. When you do a 2-man, he's also really hard. When you go for a 4-man, he is, I think mid. And when you go into open lobbies, it really depends on the players that are online. So I think Krasus also goes into the advanced tier. But if you're going as a 4-man or less people, he can definitely also be in the expert tier. But since the open lobbies are a thing, and when you are, for example, 20 people, your solo performance does not matter that much. So I think I go into advanced with him. Next up, the Dagon of Kings. I think especially Rex is really easy to do because you can safe spot him, obviously. If you want to do all 3 of them, you just need the stats and the gear, but they don't have any mechanics, so they are definitely a beginner boss. Trenor Growler, God Wars Dungeon 1, also beginner boss. Giant Mole, also definitely a beginner boss. Next up, we have Grigorovich. He's a boss in the God Wars Dungeon 2. And I think he's actually the hardest in this God Wars Dungeon. Because he has some mechanics, for example, with his stacks, the shadows and all that shenanigans that can really make him a pain in the ass. So I think I go with him into the advanced tier. Arakan is next up on the list, and the boss fight itself is kinda easy. When you go to Arakan, I think he's one of the easiest things in this whole fight. But I had some trouble when I first wanted to do him with all the deals and stuff. So I think I put him also into the advanced tier just because of all that shenanigans that you have before. Next up is Helvier. And I think Helvier can also be really tricky if you don't feel safe with the defense mechanics. But as long as you have the rotations correctly, I mean, he essentially has 4 abilities and he always do this in the same rotation. So I think that he can easily be a intermediate tier if you learn him correctly. To go into this fight for the first time and stuff, I also put him in advanced. Next up, we have Jad. And I want to put Chad into the beginner tier. But the beginner bosses are especially bosses that have almost no mechanics. And at Chad, you definitely have to kill all the waves. And you also need to prayer flick. So I think he goes into intermediate because he's one of those bosses that just has this one mechanic with the prayer flick stuff. And when you get that right, he's really easy. But when you fail it, he can punish you hard. Next up, we have the Qualified King. And this is again a group boss, and I don't have a lot of kills on him. But when I went to him with a good group, he was really easy to do. I was in the role of DPS, so I essentially almost had nothing to do than just DPS. But as long as you are, for example, doing him solo, or with not that experienced players, he is insanely hard to kill. So I want to put him in expert, but as also with the Beastmaster Durzak and Krasus, I think you could also go into advanced when you have a really good group. But I think Callfight King just hasn't that much hype anymore, so there are not a lot of people that really do him that often, so. But I think he's a little bit harder than, for example, a open lobby for Krasus. But as I said, you could also put Beastmaster Durzak and Krasus in this tier. It always depends on your teams. I think group bosses are really hard to rank like this. Next up, we have the Callfight Queen. And she essentially does not have any mechanic. You just have to tank her. And she has this weird thing with the overhead prayers. So you need either a hybrid armor and different combat styles, or a Verax set, for example. So I think she's a beginner boss. Yeah, because you just need the stats, you know. Next up, we have Kerpak in normal and in hard mode. And I think normal mode actually isn't that hard, especially when you do it in a group. But I only have experience in doing him solo, so I rank those two for a solo instant. And I think when you go to Kerpak solo mode, he is easily in the tier of an expert. And when you do him hard mode, I would put him into pro. Because I think especially the last phase, I really had some struggle to get that thing right with all the rotations and stuff when I first learned him. So yeah, I think he's definitely in the right tier right here. Next up, we have, I think this is KBD, right? It's, yeah, Veraglyph is this one here. So let's act like this is KBD. And KBD is a beginner boss. You just need anti-fire, and that is really easy. Kreara is the next boss on the list, and I think Kreara is a little bit harder than Selyana and Grador in terms of mechanics, but Kreara still is really easy. You don't need a lot of skill to do her, so she's also a beginner boss. Next up on the list, we have Krill. And Krill can be harder than, for example, Commander in Selyana or General Grador, especially when you use prayer at him and stuff. He can also poison you. But as long as you have the stats and the equipment and stuff, I think he still is really easy, because you can just face tank him and yeah, pretty easy. The Legions are next up on my list. And I actually have never really killed them that much, because in terms of money they are really bad, so it wasn't really interesting for me to do. But I think it also depends on what legion you do. You have some easier and some harder ones. I think the easier ones would be in the advanced tier. The harder ones, you could argue, can go into the expert tier, but yeah, I think they go into the advanced tier. But maybe I'm a little bit wrong here, because I actually don't have that much experience killing some legions. Next up, we have Masuta. It's the second boss in the Elite Dungeon 1. And I think he can be really hard to deal, especially when you don't prayer flick correctly and you don't have your mobility abilities and stuff. So I think I put him into the advanced tier. Next up, we have Nex. And Nex is also one of those bosses that you mostly do with a group. And when you do her solo, she can be rather tricky. But I also think that she has a really high defense value. So you can't just one-shot her like other bosses with necromancy and stuff. So I think I'll put her into the advanced tier. And to be fully honest, when I look at this list, I think I have to move Gregorovich and Helvir up to the intermediate tier, because advanced, I think, is a little bit too high if I compare them, for example, with Nex or 150 Enrage Raxxor and stuff. So yeah, let's do it like that. QED, I think, can be a beginner boss when you are on a high level account. When you have a super anti-fire and stuff, she can be really easy. It is a really fast fight. But on the other hand, compared to the other beginner bosses, she has some mechanics that you have to look out for, so I think I put her into intermediate. Next up, we have Raxxor, and I think Raxxor is a rather hard boss because she has a lot of mechanics, different phases, you have to look out for a lot of stuff. Sure, when you're high level, you can really DPS her down for good, but I think I'll put her into the expert here as, for example, a 300% enrage Raxxor. Rex Matriarchs are up next, and I think it really depends on which one you do. Again, the melee one you can almost safe spot with magic. I mean, you can just kite him and then he's really free to do. But especially the other ones have some hard mechanics. that you really have to look out for, so I think I put them in advanced. Next up on the list is Seiryu, and Seiryu I think is a hard boss to deal, especially when you don't have a lot of DPS. I think you really need the rotations right, and you have to be careful with all the hands that can spawn and stuff. So I think I put Seiryu into the pro tier actually. Next up we have the second boss of the Elite Dungeon 3, and he is especially hard when you don't have a lot of DPS. When you have enough of DPS to clear the portals fast and the minions he spawns and stuff, he's kinda easy. So I think he goes into the advanced tier. Telos is next up, and I think my maximum enrage at Telos is also somewhere between 500 and 600. I think I've never killed him higher, and I definitely think that 0 to 100 enrage, he has one phase less than with over 100 enrage, and he's really easy, so he goes into advanced tier. As soon as you are up 100% in rage, he gets another phase in the end, and this one can screw you over, especially for example at 500 or 600 in rage. You really have to do your rotations right to kill him. So this one is definitely in the expert tier, and I actually think above 1000 in rage, I think you can put him into ascended over 1000 in rage, especially at 2500 in rage, and obviously 2500 to 4000 in rage is absolutely insane. As I said, I have never killed him with over 1000 in rage, but I have seen some streams and videos, and it looks really insane to do. So I think this is definitely a good place for him to be. And I also think you can really argue that Telos is also a pro boss at 100 to 1000 in rage, and I think I will put him into pro because it really makes a big difference. If you do him at 100 in rage, he is expert, he's rather simple, but as soon as you go to 500 in rage and upwards, he definitely will not forgive you any mistakes, and it's definitely harder than, for example, 300 in rage Raxxor, so I think he goes into pro. But as I said, your opinion can also be different. Next up we have the Ambassador, and the Ambassador I think is a hard boss to do. He's not easy, especially when you do him solo. And again, I have to say I have never killed him in a group, so I have only killed him solo. Most of the bosses I have only done solo because all my friends don't play RuneScape anymore, sad. So I think if we look at him to do him solo, we go into the pro tier, same as Seiryu, because I think he's really not that easy to kill. You also need your DPS rotations right, and yeah, when you fail the mechanics, you just die really easy, so definitely a good place for him. Next up is the first boss in the Elite Dungeon 1. And I think he has, essentially he has two mechanics, one prey flick mechanic, or three mechanics, one prey flick mechanic, then the mechanic with that fucking smoke stuff, and when he spins round. But I think he's rather simple. He's harder than, for example, the first in Elite Dungeon 3, I think. But he's rather simple to kill because you don't have that much HP. So I think I put him into advanced, actually. Next up, we have the Twin Furies. They go straight up into the intermediate. They have a few mechanics, but they are either really easy to dodge or they don't do that much damage. And I think she's a cool boss to learn. And especially when you start PVMing, learning those mechanics and getting better, getting a feel for the game is cool, but they are not that hard. Veracliff, I think, goes into the same tier as the other dragons in his Elite Dungeon. I think he is a little bit more forgiving than, for example, Australian. But when you fail the mechanics, you can die really, really fast. So I think he's definitely at a good place here. And I also have to say that most kills I have done on my accounts in Elite Dungeon 2 are also solo, so yeah. Vindicta, same as the Twin Furies, can go into the intermediate tier. And I think Yakamaru is also same as Beastmaster Dursark, really depending on how you do him. So I think I would put him also into the same tier. It really depends on the group that you're with when you're at him, you know. Next up, we have Suck. And Suck is a boss that can be really hard. Definitely really hard. I think first time I did him was with range. This was before the Necromancy release. And I had some really big struggles getting him down for the first time, learning him. Because I think the waves are not that easy to deal with. And especially the fight in the end is not that easy to deal with. Now with Necromancy and some experience on, I think that the normal mode is kinda easy. So I think I would put the normal mode into the expert tier and the hard mode definitely into the pro tier. Next we have Warcath. And I have done Warcath in normal and hard mode. And I don't know why this isn't differentiate now in this tier list, because it makes a big difference if you do him hard or normal mode. So I think I could edit that quickly. Okay, now he's here 2 times. The one goes for hard and the one goes for normal mode, and I think normal mode is actually not that hard, especially when you do those minion thingies before, right? Then he does not have a lot of minions that come by and stuff. So I think I would do the normal mode into the expert tier, I think, and the hard mode definitely goes into the pro tier, because I think the mechanics are rather easy to deal with, but you have a lot of damage that you will take from all the minions that always come across and stuff. So I think he's definitely in a good place right here. Next up, we have the first boss in the Sanctum of Rebirth, normal and hard mode. And yeah, in normal mode, I think this one is definitely something for the advanced tier, because he has some mechanics that you have to learn, but isn't that easy to kill. And in the hard mode, we straight up go to expert tier, I think. And I definitely think that for the second boss in the Sanctum of Rebirth, you can actually do the same, because in the normal mode, he's kind of forgiving, especially since you have those 3 respawns and stuff in the dungeon. But as soon as you are into the hard mode, he definitely becomes an expert here. And then we go to Nakatra. And Nakatra, in normal mode, she's kind of slow with her mechanics, so she's easy to deal with, I think. And in the normal mode, I think I would put her into the expert tier, same as, for example, Suck. And in the hard mode, I'm gonna be honest, I now have over 100 kills on my main account, hard mode Nakatra, so I'm pretty good at her now. But when I first learned her, I think that I needed about 2 hours for the first hard mode kill and stuff. I died so many times. So I'm not sure if she's a pro or a ascended tier boss. But when I look at the bosses that I have in the pro tier, I think I have to put her into the ascended tier. But I don't think I'm that good of a bossing genius. And I definitely think that, for example, 4000 Enraged Telos is harder than her. But yeah, I think I have to put her here. I actually think that you need an extra tier for those Telos and Arch-Glacier maximum Enrage shenanigans here. But she's definitely harder than, for example, a hard mode Carepark, Seryu, Ambassador and stuff. So I think she's in a good tier right now. Then we have Hermod. It's the boss, the first necromancy boss that you have to do with necromancy only. And I think he's a intermediate boss. Sure, he counts as a beginner boss for necromancy, but he has definitely more mechanics, like, for example, a General Grador and stuff. So yeah, he's definitely here. And now we have Carepark again. I actually don't know why he's here 2 times. So let's put him right here. But all the other bosses that we see right here are all bosses that I actually have never killed before in that game. So I can only assume how hard they are and just place them somewhere I believe or think that they should go in. But as I mentioned, and this is really important, I have never killed one of these before. So all my experience with them comes from watching videos, the saying of people, and watching streams. So let's make this a quick one. First, we have Rise of the Sixth. And Rise of the Sixth, I think you can also argue with, is depending on your group. But I think even with a good group, what I heard of them is that you need to be rather experienced in the game to kill them. So let's put them in expert. Next up, we have Solak. And Solak is one of the hardest bosses in the game, I think. When you want to do him solo, he's definitely ascended. In a group of 4 with some experienced players, I think you have to be in the pro tier to kill this. Magister, I think, is rather simple to do, so I think I put him into the advanced tier. Next up, we have Angel of Death next, which is, again, really depending on the group, but I think he's on a same level, for example, like Solak, so you definitely, even in a good group, need some skilled players to get the kills right. I think Virago also goes with the same, but I actually don't really know what the difference between hard and normal mode Virago is, so I think I put normal mode Virago into a pro tier and the hard mode into a ascended tier, but I'm not really sure about this. Then Samarak, also really depending on the enrage. can be rather easy when he has 0 enraged in the advanced tier, as what I've heard, and insanely hard when you, for example, at a highest enrage. So I think I put him into the ascended tier just because I am assuming that you can do him. It's 2000 enrage, so he's definitely an ascended one. And last but not least, we have Raziel. And what I heard from Raziel, he's actually one of the next bosses I will take on in the game. Raziel isn't that easy, but also isn't that hard. So I think he's either in a expert or pro tier, and because I have 0 experience on him, I think I put him into pro tier. And then we also again have care pack, so we can put care pack to care pack. Yeah, and there we have it. This is my tier list of all the bosses that are in RuneScape 3. And now I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are, and if you think that some of them are easier or harder than I do, let me know in the comments. And now I wish you all a nice weekend or a nice day whenever you watch this video, you know. And I see you in the next one. Bye!